Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Now, today we have a very special show. And the person who is going to be my co-host today is Jeanne Beard. Now, Jeanne is a leader in the autism arena. She's the founder of the National Autism Academy, a speaker, a coach, a consultant, and the author of Autism, The Rest of Us, and How to Sustain a Healthy, Functional, and Satisfying Life with a Person on the Autism Spectrum. I want to welcome you, Jeanne, as my co-host today on the Susan Brender Show.
Thank you, Susan. Nice to be here.
Well, you know, you are a very interesting person, Jeanne, because you've had so much experience with autism, and you've reached out to so many people trying to make them understand a little bit about what this is about, because it's a very confusing issue. People don't really know. They say to me all the time, they say, Susan, you're getting involved in a project that deals with autism. Why is it that years and years ago, nobody ever heard the word autism? They don't really even understand it. And sometimes I even discuss this with psychologists and with doctors, and their attitude is, well, autism just popped up and we don't have an answer. Now, when you hear that autism is a very unusual and very different kind of thing that people really don't understand, how do you answer that?
Well, it's true. Most people don't understand it, and right now we don't have any specifics about what's causing it or where it came from. There are a lot of opinions about that, but nothing that's been proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt. My personal opinion is that autism has a number of reasons why it's showing up more today, and I think one of those reasons is the speed of information. People with autism process information differently, and when I started my career 30 years ago, if we wanted to meet with someone, we had to call them up, get the secretary to let us talk to them, and then we'd schedule an appointment for a week from now. When I recently retired from my career, my sales career after 30 years, if I didn't have a quote in the inbox by the time I hung up the phone, I was late. So, it's the demand for immediate information is so much greater today, and that puts people with autism in a much more difficult position than they were 100 years ago. So I think that's part of what we're seeing. It's just in relief to the environment we live in. The autism is becoming more. It's just becoming more a player in the field, part of the thing that we have to deal with. So there may very well be other medical reasons or other reasons related to genetics, to food additives. I don't really know, but there's a lot of other theories that go along with that.
I hear you. Now, we have two guests today. One is the mother of a young man by the name of Asa, and Asa is a 9-year-old, and his mother, Janna, who I'm going to give you just a little information about, and she was a nurse. She is the National Autism Academy's customer, and am I right when I say this, customer service person, or is it a different title, Janna?
Customer care coordinator.
Okay. And I want to ask you something, Janna, and pop in there, if you will, Jeanne. When you found out that Asa was dealing with autism, what did you do? What was the first step to dealing with this situation?
First I just had to process the fact that we actually had a diagnosis. We had been dealing with a lot of things prior to that, and just trying to figure out why certain thought patterns were happening, why certain behaviors were happening. And so I had to process that, the why of it. And then once I started to process that, then I had to start reaching out and looking for resources. We're in a situation where we didn't qualify for a lot of help in some arenas, and so I was reaching out looking for resources and just trying to figure out what do I do? Where do I turn? How do I help this little boy that I love more than anything?
Sure.
Where do I go? And so when I ran across the Jeanne and the National Autism Academy online, taking that class just really made a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. Jump in here, Jeanne. Let's start. Introduce Asa again and ask him a question, something that you think people need to know.
Well, Asa's an amazing young man, and he and I have become good friends over the last year or so. I really enjoy talking with him, and we Skype, so we see each other now and then, and we share some common interests, right, Asa? What kinds of things do we talk about all the time?
Well, sometimes about our dogs. Sometimes.
Yeah.
New dog, especially because.
Let me pop right in here. Asa, you mentioned dogs. What do dogs do for you? Do you play with them, and do they make you feel happy? And can you do things to take care of them that you think are very important to you?
Yes, all those, yes. But sometimes my dog annoys me because she licks the floor a lot, constantly.
Well, okay. What's the name of your dog, by the way?
Joy.
Joy. So she gives you a lot of joy, I bet.
Yeah, sometimes. But I was really happy when I found out that she was mine because I really wanted the dog at the time.
Now what about friends? Do you have a lot of friends?
Well, mostly from church. There's also another one that's not from church that lives right next door.
And what do you do together? What kinds of games do you play?
Well, we don't usually get together because there's a fence around our yard and their yard. But
what do you do when you play with your friend?
But sometimes we'll talk about things like mainly superheroes because he's 4.
He's only 4 years old, and he understands a little bit about superheroes. What's your favorite superhero?
Superman.
Well, tell our audience why. Why Superman? There are a lot of different superheroes. You chose a very interesting one. Why is that?
Well, because, he has some pretty cool powers, like heat vision, freeze breath, can fly, he has super strength,
Janna, you are a homeschool mother. What is that? What's required to be a homeschool mother, and is it different for Asa than if he was in a mainstream situation in a school? Why did you choose to homeschool him?
Well, we chose to homeschool for a lot of reasons. Some of them religious reasons, some just the fact that it was probably going to be the best environment for him because of some of the sensory issues that he deals with.
Now, what does that mean when you talk about sensory issues? What kind of sensory issues does he deal with?
He struggles with, loud noises, bright lights sometimes bother him. There's space issues sometimes, lots of just little things like that.
Right, and what about anxiety?
It's difficult and the anxiety that comes with that then. And so those are difficult to mitigate, sometimes in a public school setting.
And Jeanne,
where at home we're able to, if he's having an off day, we're able to adjust the amount of schoolwork that he's doing for the day, or, I'm able to adjust the assignments, if the assignment's way of written.
Jeanne, jump in here now. Let's talk a little bit about the whole issue of autism. I think it's very important for our audience. We're going to keep on interviewing and talking to Asa and Janna, but the point is that people need information. So I would like you to explain you say that autism is the world's most misunderstood diagnosis. Let's talk about that for a moment.
I think it is. I think the greatest challenge people with autism face are the false assumptions that most of the world make about them. Because people with autism are not really any different than people without autism, except that their brain processes information differently as a result of reacting to the sensory stimulation in the environment, the overstimulation in the environment, which we don't know what causes that, but it these people are very, very talented, capable. They're not sick. They're not retarded. They don't have mental illness. I think people still mistake autism as mental illness. It's not mental illness, and people still have this idea that someone with autism is going to be rocking in the corner, or chewing on their shirt or something like that, and that's not at all true. Autism today is a very different the spectrum. There's a reason they call it a spectrum, because every personality is different, and the way the autism impacts each individual is different. And these people, with proper training and support and a little bit of understanding, not a lot, just a little bit, they can be incredibly successful. So I think we need to make, as a culture, we need to make room for people with autism to succeed in our world, because the greatest thing that they face, the greatest difficulty they face is this idea that they're not going to be able to manage the job, they're not going to be like everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Janna, give us a little story about your son. I'm sure that you've had some remarkable and terrific times, and I want you to kind of explain to the audience what it was that you did that made Asa very happy, and also feel that he fits into the society. What is it that you can tell our audience about?
Probably the biggest thing I've done is, one, just including him in the choices, giving him choices, helping him to try and see the different ways to think about things, trying to walk him through processes, and giving him some choice in things.
And sometimes she includes prizes if I do something.
Oh,
we've added some incentives, because our kids with autism are not intrinsically motivated. Typically, they're other kids, they go into math class and the teacher says take out their math book, and they do it because they want to make the teacher happy, or they don't want to look different from their peers, or they whatever. Our kids, you say take out their math book, and they want to know why. I don't even like math. Why would I do that? Why would I? That's kind of akin to, for some of our kids, that's kind of akin to saying, come over here and let me chop your finger off.
Wow.
So why do we want to do that? And so we have to figure out ways to motivate them that are not intrinsic motivation. So sometimes it involves prizes. Sometimes it involves, for him, we have a little mini trampoline. And sometimes it involves, okay, I need you to take out your math book and do these math problems, but I understand that you're not neurologically quite regulated, so why don't you go jump on your trampoline for 5 minutes first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Now, I know that Asa plays the violin, and he also plays the mandolin, which is really fabulous.
He's just starting now, yeah.
Okay, there you go. So now, Asa, how does it feel to play the violin, and what level are you at? Are you just a beginner, or do you play a lot? Do you practice a lot?
Well, I try to practice every day, but like she said, I'm just starting mandolin. I've barely done some things on there. It's kind of a secondary thing.
The violin.
But violin, I try to practice every day. I've gotten like 800 and something days in a row without missing any now.
Whoa. And what's your favorite music? What kind of music do you play?
Oh, I like Suzuki, but fiddle is definitely my favorite. A lot of songs I like.
Are you going to continue doing it? And is it an instrument that you see yourself playing when you get older?
Yeah. I mean, music might be kind of my secondary thing that I'll be doing.
Well, what's your first?
What do you want to be?
Well, I want to be an inventor and invent a lot of cool machines and stuff, and it will be really cool.
Yeah. Now, that's your hobby, right? So do you have any other hobbies that you could tell our audience about? Because maybe you're going to be a big inspiration for a lot of people who are listening to this show. So give us a day. Tell us what it's like. You wake up in the morning, and then what happens?
Well, here's another thing I like to do. I like to build with my Legos. Have you heard of those?
And do you read the instructions, or you just do it just on your own?
When I get a set, I read the instructions. Now, some sets are so big that I try to keep them together, but most sets I end up tearing apart and building anything out of my imagination. That's the cool thing with them. They're actually made for that.
You know, Jeannie, he just talked about his imagination. I think that's terrific. Come on, jump right in and ask him a question.
Well, so Asa, what is the most amazing thing you've ever made out of your imagination? What have you built?
Well, in fact, did you know that sometimes when I'm trying to build minifigs but I don't have the right pieces, sometimes I'll just substitute them for other minifig pieces, and if I don't have that one, maybe I can find a way to build it out of brick.
What cool buildings and cars or whatever have you built?
But something really cool that I built, well, mainly everything, but my favorite is booster bricks. It's all about imagination.
So you're on our show right now where you're on a radio podcast. So tell our audience, what does imagination mean to you? You say imagination. What about your imagination is very, very interesting to you?
Well, I'll take just plain old boxes, and I'll just think of something and turn it into something besides the box.
Oh.
It's not just a box anymore, it's something else. Like, I turned a little thing from Taco Bell. It's kind of a weird kind of box, but when I unfold it, it kind of looks like a plane. So I made a little plane for a special puppy who's a little stuffed dog that's actually really special. He kind of lives up to his name. But yeah,
that's great.
You made a robot costume out of boxes too, didn't you?
Yeah, I made a robot costume once. In fact, the pieces for it are in my closet. Yeah.
Asa, it's going to be your 9th birthday, and happy birthday to you on Sunday. Now, what would you like as a present? What would be your favorite present to get?
Ooh, that's a hard one. There are 3 presents that I really, really, really want. Like, one is a transformer called Ultra Bee. It's kind of a combiner. And then there's another one that's called Fun Future. It's a Lego thing. So, like, there's a robot. There's some minifigs and stuff.
Great.
And there's a Lego Ninjago set, which is my birthday theme. This big tower. It's this big temple. And there's a little Lord Garmadon thing in the back. So Lord Garmadon is in it. And then when I can't remember what you do, but you unfold it, and then Lord Garmadon comes up with 2 flames behind him, and it's basically a good to evil transformation. It has 3 Ani masks. Like, one is called the Mask of Vengeance. I can't remember the other 2, but yeah, it comes with some ninja, some bad guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's get back to you, Janna, for a second. All right, so I think it's very important that people understand what you're dealing with and how you handle it, and what are the kinds of suggestions or different things that our audience would really like to know? Because, again, people with autism are no longer an anomaly, as our friend Jeanne Beard says, but they're now a growing minority. So with that in mind, I would like you to give some advice, if you will, to our audience.
Mostly treat our folks with autism like you do everyone else. You do need to account for the fact that sometimes when they do things that seem odd, that they say odd things or they behave in odd ways, that most of the time that's their way of trying to fit in, and that we need to account for some of those things. We've got people in his world now that try to give him space to be able to regulate himself. So when he's overwhelmed, he's got a space to be able to go. We just need people to meet our kids part way. We're trying to train our kids to be able to be in the world and function in the world, but we need people to meet them part way.
Right. I hear you. Jeanne, you must have opportunities to talk to schools. I had a friend, she told me, she said, you know what? Her son was put into a regular school. He was mainstreamed, and he didn't get the attention that he needed, and people didn't understand him, especially school teachers, principals. They didn't know about this, and they didn't give him the attention that he needed and the skills to kind of move forward. Now, I'm now with all these people who are diagnosed with autism on the spectrum, things probably have changed. So tell our audience, if you had a chance to go into a school and there was a big audience there with people who were in different fields, psychologists, doctors, you name it, parents, give us the steps that would be really important for them to know about.
Well, I could talk about that topic for 2 hours, but the number one thing, in my opinion, that is missing, and it still is unfortunately missing in the schools, because even at the university level, even in advanced degrees, there's still not a lot of good quality, in-depth education on autism. And so for me, the things that I would like to see schools, and by the way, the school is usually the biggest frustration for every parent. They depend on the school, and they're relying on the school to help them and to support their child, and they feel very let down very often because the schools are run. They have a budget. And they don't necessarily have the resources that they need to provide for each of these children individually, and these children are all going to be unique. So I think that the most important thing we could do would be to train teachers, particularly grade school teachers, younger teachers, but even high school, at the high school level, train teachers and principals and psychologists and social workers on how a person with autism thinks, because when you begin to understand how their mind works and how they think, they're not such a mystery anymore. And you can work with them. Right now what we do is we try to therapize them into conforming. It's my own word there. We try to figure out how to make them conform, and the reality is that's just sort of pushing them into their own barriers, where if you understand the autism, you can actually begin to remove the barriers and clear the way for the child to really become more successful. So I think that our approach needs to change, and that we need to have a day-to-day working understanding of how their mind works and how they think. And that's what we train, that's what we do. And it's funny you would ask, we are actually launching a teacher training at the end of the month, something that people can get CEUs for and, continuing education units. And we're hoping that we can serve, I'd love to serve every teacher in the country and help them understand their experience, their classroom experience, the child's experience, the school's experience, the parent's experience will all be better if the teachers at the teacher level, they can begin to understand how these
Can
kids
teachers
think.
all over the country do this? Is it going to be online? How is this going to work?
Yep, it's going to be all delivered online. It's going to be delivered through, in this case, right now, the first training that we're launching is going to be delivered through Northwestern University, and we're going to be able to, you can come to our website at the National Autism Academy, register there, and then you bridge into the university at the university level, and you pay for your CEUs there, and then they will actually send you the transcript or the CEUs that you need to keep up your licensure or whatever it is that you have to keep going. So it's going to be an awesome training, and it's going to be very much like our parent training in terms of the understanding, but it's geared to the classroom.
How fabulous is that? Jeannie, let's kind of end our show with something that you think that people would want to know a little bit more about Asa. Because Asa is special. He's 9 years old, and 9, you don't always hear people talk like he talks. So
yes.
What do you think is the most important thing to ask him to end our show on?
He is such an amazing young man. I would say far and away one of my absolute favorite all-time 9-year-olds. So it's pretty hard to think one great question. Let's see. Asa, what do you think, what advice could you give to other kids who are 9 years old who want to be successful in their lives? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would just say, follow your own path. Well, be what you want to be. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't have to listen to people who tell you something. It just means that you don't have to try and sneak your way into being what you want to be. In fact, that might just get you more in trouble, right?
Yeah. You are so awesome, Asa. You're so awesome.
He is awesome. Well, today we're speaking with Jeanne Beard, who's been on my show before, and she is totally an inspiration to everybody, especially people who are asking questions about why autism, where did it come from, what can we do about it. These are the things that she's answering, and she's just moving forward with programs that are going to be really important for anybody who needs to kind of deal with this issue, whether they're psychologists, as I said before, or doctors or lawyers or anybody, parents particularly. And Janna, I'd like to know, just to finish the show again, a little point that you'd like to make so that people, when we hang up and when we say goodbye to each other, they're going to say, okay, I really learned something from this. So what do you want to tell them?
Well, one, there are resources out there. For sure, come to the National Autism Academy website. We would love, as parents, to be able to get as many parents involved in that, to train them to help their kids. That particular program has been a game changer in our household.
And what is the website for that?
It is www.nationalautismacademy.com.
Terrific. And Jeannie, from your standpoint, what's the next step for you? You said you're developing this program that is going to be a way for people to get CEUs. Anything else coming up?
Oh, yeah. Right behind that will be a training for social workers to be able to receive their continuing education units, probably through the National Association of Social Workers. We've been talking with them. We have we're going to be attending the American Academy of Pediatrics convention in November. We're going to start a campaign then to get a small tabletop display into every pediatrician's office. I'd love to have one in every pediatrician's office so that parents have a resource, because pediatricians that I've talked to say they don't know where to send parents. They don't know where they can get good quality education. And the material that we're delivering is absolutely, in my opinion, the very best material on understanding how the autism works. I mean, we're not we're not here curing autism. We're embracing it, and we're understanding it, and we're looking for best possible outcomes for everyone, for a whole family, not just for the child, but for the parents and the siblings as well. So we got a lot coming up in the next year, and I'm very, very much hoping that we can really begin to speak on a larger level to change our culture, to adjust our culture so that they are more able to understand and respect and work around and live around people with autism.
Oh, what a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I'm sure it's very enlightening, and it's going to be amazing for people to get in touch with you and to follow some of your direction and things that you're doing, which will make their lives so much easier. You know, life's been hard for a lot of people. I can attest to that, as my friend has a son with autism, and my cousin has a daughter with autism, and boy, is this going to help them. So today my guests have been that fabulous little, should I call you little or should I call you a young man? What do you think, Asa?
Well, I'm not really little, but I'm not really big either.
And you're
just right.
You know what I'm going to call you, Asa? I'm going to call you a young man, or I'm going to say you're an adult in a 9-year-old's body, because you are just so great. So thank you, Asa, for being on the Susan Brender Show, and Janna as well, his mother, and, of course, our wonderful Jeanne Beard, who we're going to have on time and again, because she really is helping people to understand this disease, which unfortunately has become something that now is part of the growing minority of people in this country. So thank you again.
Back in my day, to become an author, you had to master your craft. You needed a team that you could trust, a team that would never flinch in battle. Back in my day, you would risk losing your rights and pay outrageous amounts for terrible service. Well, yesterday is not today. Gladiator Publishing Company has a century-long reputation for defending writers and readers and winning awards for their record-setting low-cost services and market sales. They are 75 to 80% more cost-effective and never touch your royalties or copyrights. Go with a publisher that is so transparent that they have their contract on their webpage. Have your book treated with honesty, loyalty, and respect, period. Visit us at gladiatorpublishing.com or text us at 417-291-9162.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.